Hello everybody, this is Brett here from Perth, Australia. I wish to give a presentation on the Bible and the book of Genesis and compare it to what science has discovered in the last 20 years. They say that the Bible is written by man, so if that is the case, it has got information in it that ancient man had no way of knowing. So if it wasn't true, it cannot be proven. Does science now prove the Bible? Let me begin. Okay, one of the questions people ask is, where did Cain and Abel get their wives from? Answer, about Genesis chapter 4, I believe. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. And so they married each other. So sisters and brothers married each other and they had babies. You might ask, did they have defects and deformities? Is that not what happens? The answer is yes, but not back then. And this is why. Number one thing is because of perfect DNA. And I'm going to show this further on shortly in my video where this is actually discovered by scientists themselves. Also, people have a problem with Adam living like 930 years. Well, if he had perfect DNA, he had better genes. And so what is time? You know, maybe 1,000 years was nothing for all creatures back then, not just Adam and Eve. Okay, here we've got person 1 and person 2. These things are called alleles, and these are the chromosomes. And so if you have a mistake here, and this person has a mistake here, when they make a baby, the mistake will be here, and the mistake will be here, but because it's not on the same lines, a deformity or defect does not come through. But if two sisters, or brother and sister, has a baby, you've got a defect here on their genome, defect here on their genome, and then it comes out on the same line, and then you get your defect. But again, as I was saying, that if Adam and Eve had perfect DNA, the children and even their children also would have close to perfect DNA. And it was through radiation, cell splitting, mitosis and meiosis, that caused deformities or errors to start occurring in the genome. It says here, inbreeding shaped the course of human evolution. It says, describing genomes as nearly error-free, Reich says, both species were severely inbred due to small populations. Archaic populations had low genetic diversity, really extraordinarily low, he said. It's amongst the lowest diversity in any organism in the animal kingdom. One Neanderthal, whose DNA Reich obtained from a toe bone, had almost no diversity in about 1/8 of its genome. Both copies were identical. That suggests that the individual parents were half-siblings. So we've got about 3 confirmations here from the Bible. Number 1, that half-siblings were breeding here. So you go back even further, you get full breeding. My theory on error-free DNA, they're saying that the genome was nearly error-free. How could that be when supposedly they were evolved from, 100 million years ago? Some creature kept evolving until it became a monkey or an ape, and then that kept evolving, and apparently had no errors in the DNA. I don't think that fits. Do you think that fits? And the other key here is the lowest diversity of any organism in the animal kingdom. The Bible says that Adam and Eve are the 2 humans that we all originated from, where God, made all other animals. He could have made about 20 different types of cattle and birds. We just do not know. So, so that's like 3 ticks here where the Bible is getting it right. Okay, the word Nephilim, that is the word for giant. As I said, besides humans, but you had giant sloths, wombats, crocodiles, sharks. Everything was bigger when they were first made, including the humans. This is a Neanderthal skull. That's a human skull. But in the Bible it talks about this as well, and it says, again the word is giant, the Nephilim. Were on earth in those days, and also afterwards when the sons of gods went to the daughters of humans and they had children by them. They were heroes of old and men of renown. So just thought I'll share that. Okay, get a load of this headline. It says, and this is scientists here, they say, genetic Adam and Eve, all humans descended of one man and woman who lived 100,000 years ago. But right, people will think this is talking about Adam and Eve. The Christians may be thinking that. Actually, it is not. And they are correct on this one here. But actually, they are talking about Noah and his wife. This is who they are actually talking about. When this first came out, there's other articles, if you can dig them up, they said that genetic Adam and Eve did not live at the same time and that they were 20,000 years apart. I was showing a person who I was having a debate with this, and he was an evolutionist, and when I showed him this to try and teach him something, he says, oh, look, see, that says that's 20,000 years apart. That's not saying your story. And then he had a big huff and cut me off and never spoke to me again. Instead of calming down and listening. Science is about discovery. People put so much faith in what science says, but so much times they keep proving themselves wrong that a new discovery will prove something different. Further on, and then they started saying genetic and Adam and Eve may have walked on Earth at the same time. Again, they only started releasing these headlines because first off they said, oh, they were even 100,000 years apart or 50,000 years apart, and now they're saying, oh, they could have lived at the same time. But I'm just highlighting how one thing gets said at one point and then they change it to the next. This is to highlight what I was saying to do with genes. These are Noah's sons, that his wives would have had different parents in the genome. So his sons had their genes, but the wives did not. But then all the grandchildren, these are the sons only. They don't mention the daughters, actually. These are all Noah's grandchildren. There were 16 men that is recorded. And again, they've all got Noah's DNA and even his mother. So that's how that actually works there, as you can see. So that article said that we all come from one man and one woman. And if you research it, they do say that, or there was people before that. This is not Adam and Eve. Well, if it's not Adam and Eve, it's Noah and Naham, or however you pronounce that. Okay, I just want to quickly talk about this. I never heard of the Denisovi. That's how you pronounce that. I was looking it up. They said, first off, I never heard of these guys before, that they were there 400,000 years before the Neanderthal. And the next article, as I showed, that they only found in a cave in Siberia. It's just like Asians and Aborigines and us, but they want to try and spin this big thing about human evolution and this species and that species, and then they find a bone and they've tested it, and it's the mum's a Neanderthal and the dad is a Denisova. But they're just clutching at straws. They say we're clutching at straws, they're clutching at straws, and then it blows their thing away that they were 400,000 years apart and died out, but that wasn't the case. So they get it wrong again. They're just showing that what I was just saying. Okay, my next topic is, did Noah's flood actually happen? This says, how the humans almost vanished 70,000 years ago, given a thing about a super volcano that exploded and comparing it to modern day explosions. It says, toxic oceans drove mass extinction 200 million years ago. So once again, the Bible, which we're going to read again soon, says that the fountains of the deep burst forth, and that started like the Noah's flood on top of the rain. It was underground, whatever it is, water reservoirs. One thing I did hear about a scientist who said 200 million years ago this extinction was excessive iron that had come up into the oceans that virtually did kill off everything. But I have not found one paper that I could find on this to verify what he says, but I do believe it because the iron is in the molten lava that's circulating on Earth, that's creating the magnetic field. If not, without it, we'll be fried. So we do have a high iron content. But I just wanted to throw that in because here they talk about the rapid rise in CO2 would have triggered changes in ocean circulation, acidification, and deoxygenation. And again, this is like, as it says here, as a tectonic As the tectonic plates shifted to break up Pangaea, huge volcanic rifts would have spewed carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, leading to rising temperatures from greenhouse effect, says Jessica Whiteside, a lecturer at the National Oceanic Geographic Centre. But they want to be dramatic about this carbon dioxide. It's killing everybody when it's not. It was Noah's flood, and that's what's really happened. But they got a different story on it. As it says here, in the 600th year and 17th day of the second month, on that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of heaven were open, and rain fell for 40 days and 40 nights. So, the springs of the great deep burst forth. So how did ancient man know that there was these great deep, springs, bang, that burst forth, unless, what I'm saying. This is in Cairns. They got two of these. I've been here myself, and I thought I'd include these in the pictures. I'm not saying these are the only two, but again, you go there, they got a little story that they say 100 million years ago, whenever this was, that from the lava underneath was boiling up this big huge pocket of water, and then because of the steam, the pressure, and it just exploded, creating these. But does that reflect that story I just read to you? And again, I have been here. Very nice place to go and visit. The next one here, it says, early Earth less hellish than previously thought. As I said, first off, scientists say that the Earth was too hot for water even to be on the Earth, and that arrived, after 500 million years. And now they're saying what the Bible says, that in Genesis 1 there was water on the Earth from the get-go. It says, the Earth was barren, flat, and almost entirely underwater 4.4 billion years ago. Australian scientists at Australian National University say that the Earth was likely to be barren, flat, and almost entirely underwater, with a few small islands, following their analysis of tiny mineral grains as old as 4.4 billion years old. Once again, remarkable, because the Earth is no older than 6,000 years, so that's quite amazing. And as it says here, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and now the earth was formless and empty, darkness over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered together in one place, dry ground appear, and it was so. So once again, the Bible said this verse 3,300 years ago, when God dictated this to Moses, and now the sciences are now saying it as well. And it all started to do with these zircon rocks or zircon crystals. First off, I read that they were saying, they found water inside the crystals. Now they're saying they found oxygen-18, which means there was water in the crystals, but they could only form with water on top of that. So there had to be water around them for these to form. And they're saying they're the earliest rocks they have ever found. And so now we're going back to what the Bible is saying, that there was water on earth from the get-go. So here I'm just going to show a series. This is from South Africa and America and Iran. These pictures, I forget which is which. I think this one is South Africa. But when you had Noah's flood, it was the mountains at that point of time that, the Himalayan mountains probably did not even exist. So whatever the mountains were, and the water had come up to it. And for this pressure, if these are like sedimentary rocks as they say they are, that there would have to be water pressure above this to create the rocks above there. Is that not true? This is the Grand Canyon. Again, did a massive flood create this? The land that has been carved out or washed away, maybe there was the hard rock here, and there was softer stuff here, and it was just easily just washed away, given this illusion to what people say. And if they're all up the top here, they all find seashells and that, and they say, once it was at the ocean floor 400 million years ago, but maybe it's just seashells washed on top. And as I said, these were just different ecosystems from way upstream. A person's got a theory, and then you've got to check that out, that there was a natural big dam, and all this just washed down. This is silt that did wash down, and maybe there was trees here that gathered on it. Who knows? But Yes, I think this one is in Iran. And I just want to show, was there Noah's flood? This is in Texas. Again, look at the top of the mountain here. You know, like you can tell the straight lines with the water. If you've ever been near a river, it goes up and down. You notice these straight lines. So again, look at the top here. So for that to form like that, would even have to be higher than that. Is that proof of Noah's flood? You tell me. And even this place, look at that, so beautiful. It says, 2 Peter, they deliberately forget about long ago's God's words, having come into being, and the earth was formed out of water and by water. So that's a major statement to make, and just comparing again the Genesis statements of the word of the earth being covering in water from Genesis 1. So here is Jesus that, he died on the cross. He is the Son of God. Everyone will find out this one day. My friend, he goes, it's more than just believing in your heart that you know that Jesus is in your heart. That's how you know it's real. No, you can actually, he says in the Bible that if you do the will of God, believe in him, that he will actually prove himself to you. And I did not believe it myself. I was a Christian and I did believe it, but then I said, this isn't true. And as if God could prove himself to me, I did not believe it was, and he did, beyond all words and comprehension. So I just got to spread the word. No one listens. Here's Jesus, nice art. And Jesus on the cross, as I said, Jesus did no wrong to anybody. Everybody hates him still. They get angry. I don't know why. That, you preach a bit of righteousness that the earth urgently needs, a bit of justice, that leaders who are not selfish, a more kinder society, but everyone's angry. This is Jesus. And one day we're going to meet him, unfortunately, and fortunately for some. Depends who you are. So I ask you, accept him, consider what I said. I've shown you that the Bible's not that far-fetched after all. I've shown you that science has proved some parts of the Bible already, and there's all there is to it. So God bless you, and thank you for watching.